RTD's really got a vendetta, doesn't he? Several vendettas, according to this season. This was an interesting episode. I would say that I liked it for the most part. I thought it was pretty well made. I like how it basically began as what I thought, and what I think a lot of people thought was going to be a slightly better version of Love and Monsters. Then the twist turned it into something completely different, and as far as that part of it went, I think they pulled it off really well. I didn't see the whole think tank thing coming. I thought it was a pretty good twist. Honestly, just before that, I was getting kind of bored, which made the twist even better because suddenly what was very boring became kind of interesting. I'll talk a little bit more about the obvious messaging, the obvious, very on the nose messaging at the end. I have some things to say about that, but first I just want to discuss the episode without that. Kind of hard to do, but here we go. As far as Dr. Light episodes go, this one, I liked how it was a unit episode, basically. Kind of felt like a test run on how the unit spinoff could work. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes, because I like this unit team they've set up. I do kind of wish one of the Osgoods was there. I liked that character, but, that's irrelevant to this episode. I think this team works well together, and it'll be interesting to see them in their own show. I also want to note real quick, I like the creature design of the Shriek. Very creepy, looked like something out of an 80s horror movie, honestly. Interesting to see how Ruby is coping after life with the Doctor. We've never really had a companion like this, kind of like looking at it from almost like a PTSD point of view, which is interesting because if you think about it, lots of really bad stuff does happen. You kind of go into a war zone sometimes, so I guess it kind of makes sense. I could see some other companions like Tegan having to go through this. I mean, that is basically why she left, because of how horrible Resurrection of the Daleks was. So it works. It works for me. They're not all going to be like Mel joining Unit Pronto or Martha joining Unit Pronto, I think it's okay. Okay. I don't know how to talk about the episode without talking about the messaging. It's obvious what RTD is addressing here, right? We all know. I don't need to say it. The divided internet, how much there is so much negativity, and there are so many negative people who build their channels or blogs or whatever about mainly being negative. However, I think there's a generalization out there that this episode definitely falls into the trap of the belief that everyone is just doing it for money or power or fame. Sure, there are some like that. Negative headlines get clicks, get views, but I don't think they're all like that. I don't think all the YouTubers who don't like current Star Wars or don't like current Doctor Who are just faking it for the money or whatever. I think what usually really happens is they don't like the show and they have genuine grievances, which is more than fair. Then they find more people who have genuine grievances and they all start banding together in this community, because that's what humanity is. We were created to be very social, very community driven, and when we find people who agree with us, it makes us feel good. Problem is, when you find that camaraderie based on negativity, that is only going to encourage the negativity, and that keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. And then, it's true that a lot of times, even when a good episode comes out, they will refuse to find the good in it, just like Conrad in this episode refused to believe things when they started happening, because they've built this community around tearing it down, tearing it apart, and I don't even think they're conscious of it all the time. They're just hanging out with their friends, basically. A group of friends that are just encouraging each other to go down worse and worse paths. Then you get things like hashtag RIP Doctor Who or death wishes against Kathleen Kennedy and all that stuff. But for what? An entertainment franchise? I don't think, this episode paints them all as oh, they're bad people. You are going to rot in this jail and die in this jail alone. I just think that most of them don't even realize how caught up in the negativity and how just blinded by it they've been. I have grievances against the show. This isn't my favorite era. I think it's getting better. I don't think it's getting there yet. I don't particularly want to spend a whole review talking about the messaging of the episode, but I do think it is better than it was last season, even in an era that I don't particularly like. The Jodie Whittaker era especially was not for me. I did not like the majority of that era. It just wasn't for me. But there are a couple of episodes, like The Haunting of Villa Diodati, I can't remember the name of it, that one Angels episode in Flux, that I thought were just brilliant. They were great episodes. And if I was one of those negative YouTubers, I would not have liked them. I would just go like, well, you know, the Haunting of Villa Diodati leads into one of the worst episodes of all time, so obviously that one's trash too. You know, I'd find ways to tear it apart. And that is what a lot of people are doing, whether they realize it or not. Putting all that energy into, like I said, tearing apart an entertainment franchise. But like I said, I also wouldn't do what this episode does and tell them to just go and die in a jail cell all alone. That is harsh. And that leads me to something else that doesn't get talked about as much. I don't think there's just toxic negativity around. There's also some toxic positivity where it's a reaction to the negativity. Like, okay, well, everything was bad. Well, no, everything's great and wonderful. That's why I will always try to be fair. I am going to tell you whether I like something or not. I will always tell you the truth. I did not like The Acolyte. I loved Skeleton Crew. I did not like the Minecraft movie. I loved Marvel's Thunderbolts. You know, sometimes I wish some of these people who put so much fervor towards tearing down a media franchise would put some of that fervor into building people up, or I don't know, going out into the community and helping other people out. I don't know, maybe they do that too. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I don't want to be harsh. But anyways, guys, that's enough on that. Oh, I do have one more thing. Are we implying then that Conrad is the one that the doctor was referring to when he told Belinda that someone told him her name, so he felt the need to go check it out? Because if so, I kind of like that. I kind of like that it was just this random dude in the middle of the season instead of some overly complicated Belinda's the most important person in the universe and you need to find her sort of thing. I can accept that. But anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. And what do you think of this topic of overly negative versus overly positive YouTubers versus those of us who are in between, just trying to have a good time. Hopefully have a good time. Let me know what you think. Bye.